Today, I'm talking about setting boundaries, and this is a difficult subject. Setting a boundary is like drawing a line in the sand that separates what is acceptable and what's not acceptable within our lives. Welcome to Master Your Mindset, Master Your Life. This is a podcast that empowers you to start taking back control of your life, to start unlocking your true potential, and to actually start getting you from stuck to unstoppable and break out of the monotony that you're currently in. I'm Sanj, and today we're talking about why we need to set boundaries in our life. And I'm going to talk about what the best ways we can do it is, because honestly, setting boundaries is a very uncomfortable thing. Many of us, we don't realize actually why we need to do it and how to do it, because we've never thought about setting boundaries before. We kind of just take life as it comes. It actually is just one of those things which we just kind of think, okay, this is how we're expecting to be treated, and we don't do anything about it. For all you guys out there, if you're ready to actually go into 2024 as a best version of you, drop me a DM. I've got a Lads and Dads Facebook group. It's a community where we get together, group of guys, we start focusing on what we can take back control in our lives, how we can improve ourselves to become the best version of ourselves. And it's a group of people trying to hold each other accountable so we can become the best versions of ourselves and go into 2024 the right way. So if you're interested, drop me a DM. So before we delve into how to set boundaries, first let's understand why we need to set boundaries. Because as I said, setting boundaries is a very difficult thing. So we struggle with setting boundaries, and so many of us, including me, I had massive problems setting boundaries. I was always happy to kind of say yes to everything, and it just ends up putting stress on you. It ends up putting pressure on you. So the first reason why we struggle to set boundaries is because the fear of conflict. So one of the biggest reasons we struggle is because of that fear of conflict. We're afraid that if we say no, or by establishing limits, we're going to upset or we're going to disappoint others. But we got to remember that boundaries, they're not about being confrontational. It's about self-care. Self-care is not selfish. If you say no to something, it's okay to say no to going out because you want to spend time just relaxing at home. It's okay to say no to that extra bit of work because you know that you've got other stuff on your plate. It's okay to say no to doing things if you don't actually want to do it. Even if you've got nothing else to do, it's okay to say no. Yeah, that fear of conflict is something that we actually construct in our mind. And what you'll realize when you start saying no is actually people respect it more than you think. The second reason, actually, it kind of coincides with that fear of conflict, is because we desire to be approved. We are communal human beings. We want to be accepted into the group. And so we crave it. We crave approval and we fear rejection. So this desire to be accepted, it can lead us to overcommit in areas of our life. It means that we will end up neglecting our own needs, and we don't set boundaries. We avoid setting boundaries because we don't want to be seen as confrontational, and we want to be seen as agreeable and accommodating. So that desire for approval is actually why we're struggling to set boundaries as well. And the final reason is we struggle with guilt and self-worth, because we worry that when we set boundaries that we're being selfish or unkind. And again, this ties into our self-worth, because we may believe that we don't deserve to establish those limits. We believe that actually, no, we should be doing everything for everyone else, and our own needs come last in this. But if we need to set boundaries, it's essential in our life, because the first reason is when we set boundaries, it's an act of self-respect, and it sets a clear message to not only others, but to yourself, that your well being matters. Because when you respect your own boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. And I've helped so many guys when they turn around and they say, I don't like the way I'm being treated. We then go through a process and we set some boundaries, and they actually notice that when they start setting boundaries, that the way people treat them is very different. And the reason is because then people understand that they are not to treat this person in a certain way, that they are actually to respect these boundaries, that they are to respect this person and to treat them with a certain level of kindness, with empathy or whatever. But when you start to actually impose boundaries, when you respect your own boundaries, it teaches others to respect them too. And so it will show in the way they treat you. The second thing is actually boundaries can also reduce your stress, because the simple 2-letter word of no, it's actually, it can prevent burnout and overwhelm, because it's by saying no when it's necessary and prioritizing your own needs, it can actually just benefit your mental health abundantly, just phenomenally change your mental health, because then you are just not putting that unnecessary stress on you. Yeah, it can also improve your relationships, because when you start setting boundaries, there's clear communication and well defined limits. It can enhance the respect between you and others. It can enhance the understanding that you have with other people, whether they be your partner, whether it be your colleague, your kids. When you set those boundaries, it can help just enhance your relationships. It can help build those relationships, because then they know what to expect from you and you know what to expect from them. So when you set it, yeah, it will actually change so much in your life. And the last reason is boundaries are a tool for personal growth. They enable you to focus on your goals and your values, and eventually that leads to a more fulfilling life. So that's how the setting boundaries can help with your personal growth. But how do you set the boundaries? How can you set boundaries effectively? So I'm going to give you 3 ways in which you can set boundaries effectively. The first one, it sounds ridiculous and so simple, but it's often overlooked. You need to be clear and specific. When you're setting boundaries, you need to make sure that you're as clear and specific about your needs and limits. Because if you're vague, then it can lead to confusion and misunderstandings. If you say something, for example, if you say something like, I need more personal time, what is more? 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So then you haven't actually been clear, you haven't been specific. But if you turn around and say, I need 1 hour of uninterrupted personal time every evening, then people know those limits. They know that for 1 hour you are uncontactable in a way. So when you're setting those boundaries, make sure you're clear and specific so that there's no confusion. And as well, then you can also, when you're setting these boundaries, it may also be easier for you to put it into your schedule to actually fix a set time where you want this time, or you want to do this or do that, whatever it is. It could just mean that it's just easier for you to fit in your day. The second way is, if you're going to set boundaries, communicate it respectfully. When you set boundaries with respect and with empathy, let others know that your boundaries are not a reflection of your feelings towards them, but it's actually because you need this time. You're not then putting the blame on them. You're actually saying, no, you know what? This has got nothing to do with you. This is to do with me. Because if you make it sound that actually you need, say, time away, you need personal time away from them, they're going to be thinking, what have I done wrong? And then it could lead to other arguments and other issues. So when you're setting your boundaries, communicate it respectfully. Use empathy when you're telling them why you need this boundary, what the reason behind it is. And again, if you're actually clear and specific and you give them a good reason, it just means that it will help them understand why you're communicating this boundary. The third one is consistency. You have to be consistent because people may test your limits. They'll they'll be pushing those limits. When you say, okay, no, I need 1 hour of uninterrupted time, they're going to say, look, can you do 30 minutes? They're going to try and push you at first, but by sticking to your boundaries consistently, they'll end up learning to respect them. Yeah, so make sure that your boundaries are clear and specific, they're communicated respectfully, and that you keep consistent with what you're going to say. Yeah, so setting boundaries, it's not an act of selfishness. It's an essential step towards your self-care, to reducing stress, to improving relationships, and to bettering yourself and your personal growth. Yeah, so you deserve to live a life that respects your needs and your values, and setting boundaries is your path to achieving just that. So keep setting those boundaries and keep embracing your journey of self-discovery. So thank you for joining me today. And if you enjoyed this episode and got something from it, let me know below. Leave a comment below. My mission is to make a positive impact on the world, and I sincerely hope you can help me do that by liking, by following, by sharing, subscribing to this podcast. And if you can share it with others, I'd be even more grateful. It's available on Amazon Music, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, and on Spotify. Remember, your mindset shapes your reality. Master it, and you'll master your life. Thank you.